Here is my review on my topic of equity in access in education by me, Kylie Colas. What these articles all share, what they all had in common, they had a lot in common. The majority of them kind of said the same thing in different ways. Some elaborated and went deeper into it. Some of them gave me more data. Some of them had graphs. But all in all, the articles all emphasize equity and address the gaps in education. They point out how financial, racial, and social differences create gaps in educational access and outcomes. Common solutions are equitable or fair resource distribution, culturally receptive practices, and systemic policy improvements. Many of the articles also support inclusive teaching strategies, early intervention, and holistic approaches to improve opportunities for more vulnerable students. Data and research are consistent about these arguments, showing that the impact of structural barriers on student success across our different populations. One of the big topics in most of my articles were equality versus equity. It's a common confused terms, so I really enjoyed this picture that they gave as a visual. Equality means treating everyone the same, whereas equity requires giving everyone what they need. Perception of equality and equity is often explained through the idea that treating everyone the same doesn't account for each learner's individual needs. Equity is recognizing these differences and providing resources and opportunities to support success for everyone. The difference is shown in the picture to the right. Three boys of different heights are trying to look over the fence. Equality gives everyone the same box, while equity gives each person what they need to see over the fence successfully. So equity and equality, if we give our learners all the same resources, all the same materials, they're not all going to learn from it. We need to give each student what they need to learn and move forward with their learning, I guess. So that's kind of what it explains, and it shows that in the visual. One of the big concerns with this gap is the financial issue. We have high and low and everybody in between. Here's a quote. Available school funding also impacts the quality of teachers that schools are able to place in the classroom. Low-income schools are not able to offer competitive teacher salaries. As a result, the low-income schools become a dumping ground of the less qualified teachers who could not attain other jobs. In addition, the low-income schools have a difficulty retaining teachers. Common sense, right? A good teacher is going to want to make more money. So even if they're working at these low-income schools, they're going to keep looking and they're going to go elsewhere to provide them with everything that they need to do to teach successfully. When schools lack proper funding, they face a domino effect of challenges. Not enough funding leads to outdated resources, lower teacher quality, and limited student support programs. Without these important elements, students often experience reduced academic success. This financial strain reduces the school's ability to create an equitable learning environment and narrows opportunities for all students. Race and socioeconomic status is the other big part of this gap. Black students, for example, are twice as likely as their white peers to be in inadequately funded school districts and 3.5 times more likely to be in chronically underfunded districts. Black and Hispanic children's parents typically have lower incomes and lower levels of educational attainment than white children's parents. Because higher income and more educated families typically can provide more educational opportunities for their children, family socioeconomic resources are strongly related to educational outcomes. By age 17, the average Black student is a full 4 years behind the average white student. These quotes provide evidence and perspective on how systemic inequities and equities contribute to the racial achievement gap. They point out the effects of underfunded schools in mainly minority communities, unequal access to advanced learning opportunities, and the connection between race and socioeconomic status and educational gaps. Working on solutions. They all kind of provided me with the same type of solutions. I have a couple slides of some quotes that were stated that kind of touched the majority of the ones that I felt were more prominent in all my articles. Greater funding by itself should not be considered the sole solution to improving disadvantaged students' achievement. Efforts must also be taken to ensure that teachers and school leaders receive essential professional development experience, which allows them to not only be effective teachers, but aimed at improving teacher-student relationships, quality instruction, and methods of handling student misbehavior in ways that do not detract from the quality of teacher-student relationships or from learning opportunities. Several school characteristics elicit achievement outcomes, including a safe climate, strong leadership, positive teacher attitudes and expectations towards students, an emphasis on instruction, careful monitoring of both student progress and staff evaluation, strong parent involvement, and an emphasis on the importance of academic achievement, motivation, and emotional well-being. Now, all these things, you don't have to have all these things to be a great school and to close the gap. You're not always going to have parent involvement. It just is what it is. But all these things, of course, make the ideal situation. All of them help, but all of them are not necessary to help close that gap. The Center for American Progress recommends advocating for equitable funding via increasing federal funding for education and promoting fairer and more transparent funding policies at the state and local levels. Equipping schools with more counselors, nurses, and social workers rather than increasing surveillance and policing, and updating school boundaries and selection criteria to promote racial equity. School health programs and services that are evidence-based, strategically planned to influence academic achievement and effectively coordinated warrant validation as a cohesive school improvement initiative for closing the achievement gap. Last one. To combat the impact of poverty on schools, school reform and instructional strategies need to be incorporated into the classroom. A few such strategies are collaborative learning, where teachers can design teams to address the most challenging aspects of student learning needs, home learning, and early stimulation for children before entering school. These quotes give us a few examples of how we can address the achievement gap. Funding alone isn't going to fix it. We need to invest in our teachers, equitable funding distribution, and have a planned school health programs that prioritize academic success. Additionally, teacher-student relationships, safe school environments, collaborative learning and teaching, and providing early childhood programs are also some great solutions to help fight back the achievement gap. Successful leadership and strong parent involvement also play an important role in improving achievement results. Then I just have my references stated in the last two slides. That is kind of my quick summary of my main topics underneath equity and access in education, and then some other topics that go along with them. Thank you for your time.